Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is, August. It's August, and I can't believe it's August. It is Thursday, August 4th. Please tell me it's actually August 4th. I think it's August 4th. It could be August 3rd. Is it the 3rd? It one or the other. It's Thursday. Today was supposed to be an entire food court day. But this Lizzo lawsuit happened, and the headlines and the lawsuit don't quite match for me. So we're going to talk about that. Yes, we're going to go through some of the allegations, but we're also going to talk about the fact that lawsuits are allegations and shade and how to kind of parse what a lawsuit says versus what the headlines say, because I think that's the most helpful. And then look at where there's problems. I'll tell you how I break down lawsuits when we take the initial complaints, because of course we don't have a legal response, but we do have a PR response now from Lizzo. And I will talk just a little bit about why this lawsuit might have been dropped the way that it was, and some quirks that I've noticed that I haven't seen anybody else really talk about. Then we're going to talk about food court. We're still doing food court. We're making it happen. We're going to talk about Mr. Beast suing over Beast Burger, Taco Bell and those shady Crunchwrap Supremes. We have a Texas Pete update and that mac and cheese lawsuit. We have to talk about that too. So, Lawnards, love you. And I see you in the chat being like, the Lizzo suit involves bananas. It fits. Yes, it does. We're going to make it all work. So thank you for being here. Replay crew, love you. All the timestamps for the cases you're interested in will be down below. And we're going to just jump into topics today because we have so much, literally so much to talk about. But I'm really a little frustrated with this like headline disparity, and we're going to talk about some of that too. I feel like I don't want to step on Hoag's toes with the headlines and hangouts and breaking down the headlines, but some of these headlines, y'all, some of these headlines are wild. So we're going to talk about that too. All right, let's go. If you haven't seen the headlines, don't worry, I'm going to tell you what they are. Let's roll.
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it.
So as we get into this Lizzo lawsuit, the headlines are things like Lizzo dancers claim hostile work environment, Lizzo sued for sexual harassment, Lizzo sued for fat phobia, Lizzo sued for racial discrimination, sexual harassment, fat phobia, all the rest of it. So one of the articles I read in particular, and I'm not going to call out the outlet, but one of the articles I read in particular with these headlines talking about racial discrimination, fat phobia, sexual harassment, hostile work environment, talks about one of the dancers quitting. And we're going to get to that part in the lawsuit. Talks about one of the dancers quitting. And when the dancer quit, the lawsuit outlines how Lizzo responds. But in the news article, supposedly based on the lawsuit, it says Lizzo like flipped double middle fingers and then yelled a slur at her. And I was reading that going, oh my God, what did you say? Like, what did you say? So when I look at the lawsuit, Lizzo, as this woman quit on the spot, flipped middle fingers and said, bye, bitch. And I'm like, okay, I can see that happening. But also, the reporting is now just like goading things by leaving them vague and by not really sticking to exactly what the lawsuit says. And that is kind of messy for me, and I don't love it. This whole lawsuit is messy. We're going to go through it. It's just, I don't think we need to hype this to be a scandal more, but I do think a lot of the stuff that was put into this lawsuit was put there for the media. And after my interview yesterday with Mandy Matney talking about how media companies track how far down an article you read, how different headlines grab clicks, when we talk about all of that, we're seeing it play out in this story. But it's got to be strange for Lizzo. I mean, if she's maintaining this work environment, then you have to know this is coming. But this has to be strange for Lizzo too, to have been such a darling in the media and watch all of them turn in a second, just in a second. And that's something to keep in mind, because as we evaluate lawsuits, we need to remember that they are allegations and shade. Some of the facts might just be facts put into the lawsuit for the media and not be actionable facts. And we're going to talk about that. It doesn't mean they didn't happen. It just might mean that they might fall into that morality versus legality situation. And this lawsuit, we're going to talk about it a lot. So keep an open mind. We are going to go through the lawsuit, and you might come away with, yeah, there's a few actionable items here. You might come away with, this isn't anywhere I would ever want to work, but also I don't know if there's actionable items here. And we'll see how this plays out. So here's how I'm approaching this lawsuit. We are going to look at it kind of in the motion to dismiss realm, where we take all of the allegations in the lawsuit as true and say, even if all of this is true, what are the arguments against them? And Bradley said something in the chat that I was actually thinking about this morning. Bradley said, this will be settled. A lot of civil lawsuits settle. But I wonder if the media blitz on this lawsuit has made it so that Lizzo cannot settle this lawsuit from a PR perspective. Because what does the public, not the law nerds, the general public, assume when you settle a lawsuit? They assume that you've done something wrong. That is the assumption. After you've seen these headlines, racial discrimination, sexual harassment, fat phobia, everything that goes against Lizzo's brand, right? After you see those headlines, and then if you heard Lizzo settles lawsuit, then aren't you thinking, oh, well, did she do this? Or you're thinking about those headlines being like, oh yeah, that's the sexual harassment, racial discrimination, fat phobia thing. Oh, okay, so she did it. When oftentimes a settlement is a evaluation of like cost benefit. Like, how much is it going to cost to fight this versus how much do I stand to lose? But Lizzo probably has the money to be able to say, I'm fighting this, and pull a Gwyneth Paltrow and being like, this is going to court. This is going to court. We're just going to have to go to court and fight it, because I don't know how you settle this unless there's more and it's worse. If there's more and it's worse, you settle it. Because if you're going to parade in, if these lawyers can parade in employee after employee after employee who says that this is exactly what the work environment was like, you can't overcome that at a jury. And in this case, different than other cases, this is one of the things I look at when I look at a case. The second this lawsuit was made public by the media, there were multiple former employees that came forward and said, yes, this, and supported this lawsuit, and supported the 3 backup dancers that came forward and brought this lawsuit. So when you've got at least 3 former employees that aren't suing for money, that have come forward and said, this also was my experience, then this might not go to trial. Because then you have a parade of former employees who have nothing to gain. When you go before a jury in an employment lawsuit and somebody has been fired, or somebody has somebody has been fired or not been promoted or whatever it is, a jury comes in and is like, okay, so you're mad that you didn't get more money. Now you're here because you want more money. And that is generally the lens. Yes, they're supposed to come in unbiased and be like, I'll keep an open mind, but humans are humans. And they're just like, okay, so tell me a bit more about this. You didn't get the money you wanted. Now we're here. I need to know more. But if you have employee after employee after employee that's coming in saying, yes, I'm not part of this lawsuit. I didn't sue because I was afraid to sue, which is so common in Hollywood. I'm afraid to sue because I might never work in this town again. And then they came up and talked about their experiences being the same. Well, that's real persuasive to a jury. Real persuasive to a jury. Imagine if you're the jury and you're like, these people have something to lose and nothing to gain. So they become your neutrals. And then if you have more, because I assume if there's 3 that were willing to come forward on social media, that no, the second you come forward on social media and make a statement against a beloved star, even if at the moment the media is pulling that star down, you know that there's a percentage of their fans that are going to come for you. It shouldn't be that way, but you know that they're going to come for you. So putting that forward is scary. But if there's 3 who are willing to come forward, how many are like, I don't want to get all up in this in social media, but might be willing to go to court? So this one's going to be interesting. So for that, it might sue. I realize I need to back up because for some of you in the chat, you're like, who is Lizzo? Lizzo is a body positive singer, performer, who also plays the flute. I don't know how to describe that any better. Chat, you could describe that a little bit better. Lizzo put out a statement. Let's go to Lizzo's Instagram real quick. Lizzo put out a statement about this. I'm going to cover Lizzo's statement at the end of the lawsuit. But Lizzo took a DNA test. Turns out she's 100% that bitch. That's Lizzo. If you don't know, now you know. Well, maybe. So that's who Lizzo is. I should have backed up. The lawsuit will also describe who Lizzo is. That's not what I need. Emily, is your screen ready? I don't know about that. This is Lizzo. True love ain't something that you buy yourself. True love finally happens when you buy yourself. So Lizzo, this is Lizzo. You might have seen Lizzo perform. You might have seen flute. You might have seen people talk about Lizzo. You might have heard some of Lizzo's music. You might not. So Lizzo, that's Lizzo. She also had a TV show. We're going to get into that when we get into the lawsuit. And as I said, we're going to get into Lizzo's statement last because we need to do the lawsuit first. So exactly. You guys are dropping the Lizzo lyrics. I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. That one. The crystal flute was something. So once we've gotten to her whole brand is uplifting women, embracing her sexuality, embracing her body, being sexy at any size. This is empowering women. This is her whole brand. So for a lawsuit to come out and talk about sexual harassment, racial discrimination, body shaming, fat phobia, discrimination based on size, which is a thing that we will talk to in a minute. All of that, religious harassment, it goes directly against her brand. Here's what I will note. This lawsuit, I'm going to show you what this lawsuit, when was this lawsuit filed, law nerds? We were told in the media that it was filed on the 31st, I think, or the 1st. But you know what? I can't tell. Why? Because the lawsuit that is available through all of the media outlets is not stamped. And I have been going through the court filing system, talked to the clerk's office. This is not filed yet through the clerk's office. Now, that can take time from the time the lawyers dropped it off. But from the time the lawyers dropped it off, who knows when that was, this was given to outlets. I don't know if that changes how you feel about the lawsuit, but I also feel that I need to point it out. Thank you, Miguelina. I appreciate you. So there's no case number yet. There's no filing stamp yet. The LA system can take a minute to put them up on the public system, which is why I called the clerk. And the clerk's office is like, not through the system yet. So when I say that I feel, my feelings, my opinion, is that this lawsuit was partly written for the media, and then the lawsuit is given directly to the media before it works its way through the court system and the public filing system, So this is not yet filed. When will it be filed? I don't know. Will I tell you when it will be filed? When it is filed? Yes. Will I be keeping an eye on it? Yes. But this lawsuit was given directly to the media. The media did not see this in the court system. It's not there yet. And the media did not grab this from the court system. The media was not given a heads up. Can that happen? Yes. Yeah, they can do whatever they want. It's their lawsuit. Does it change how you feel about how this lawsuit was written and the purpose of this lawsuit? Maybe. Does that mean these things didn't happen? Hold on, I want to get to the last page. Does that mean these things didn't happen? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that the allegations might not be true. But it does give that PR, make the story big element. And why not wait 2 days until you have the stamp on it to let the media know? Unless you wanted to place it with a particular, this is me speculating, unless you want to place it with a particular publication and you don't want someone else to scoop it when they see it get filed. But I don't know if anybody was monitoring for Lizzo getting sued. Maybe they were. This isn't signed yet either. This is the one that got out to the media. So, I think that's an interesting thing. Cass the Sass said, Emily, you're the first attorney out of 4 law tubers I've seen talk about this. Even notice that it hasn't been stamped yet. I always want to see, I go to the courts. This is how I do things. Look, I worked as a research attorney. I'm always curious about how it works. Yes, there is time in LA. There's like a lag time, and there can be a lag time between when it's taken to the clerk's office, but shouldn't it be e-filed, but taken to the clerk's office and when it gets up into the system. So it's always interesting to me, and this happened a lot covering Britney Spears, that I would see a publication, TMZ, talk about the fact that James Spears had filed XYZ. And then I go to the court and I'm like, where though? So I knew that the media was getting this handed to them. Is that legal strategy? Yes, it is. It's a strategy. But we have to talk about the fact that it's a strategy. I'm not going to hide the fact that that's also a strategy. It's a strategy. You can decide how you feel about it being a strategy. But this story was everywhere in the media. So let us continue on and get into the allegations. So J-Lo Ducky said, feels kind of hinky to grab attention before Lizzo's team is even aware of it. Lizzo's team might have been aware of it because some of these would have required a letter to the business with an intent to sue. They might have been aware of it. They might have been completely blindsided. I imagine that the media outlet that was given the lawsuit, depending on if the media outlet has a good relationship with Lizzo's people, might have given them a heads up that this is breaking. Could have happened. Don't know. So it's just a really interesting conversation about how lawsuits, particularly against celebrities, go down. Because I think it's something we need to keep in mind. The headlines have been very salacious. There are details in this lawsuit that are very salacious. Lawsuits don't have to contain everything that they do sometimes. So we see it. But it definitely grabbed the headlines. Could that benefit a settlement? Yeah, it could have. Could it benefit a settle down the line? Yeah, it could. But do I think Lizzo would have had a heads up on some of these causes of action? The company would have had to have been notified. And it's her, it seems to be her company. So we will see. So I'll let you know when it's filed. That's something I'm keeping an eye on. So all of you, let us away into this. Natalie Lawyer Chick talked about something yesterday, and I was scratching my head about this on this case too. We got some issues. And again, I am taking everything in this lawsuit, letting you know lawsuits are allegations and shade. If this was coming up on a motion to dismiss, the standard the court would evaluate this on is assuming everything is true, are there causes of action here? We're going to see that later in today's show too, with motions to dismiss on a 12b6. So that's how I'm looking at it. This is everything. I'm assuming everything in this is true. Even if everything is true, is there a cause of action? Hopefully that helps. Ashley said, innocent till proven guilty. The world of civil and the world of criminal are very different. Civil is much more of a game. Criminal is innocent until proven guilty. I take civil lawsuits with the allegations in shade. Assuming all of this is true, can you sue over it? And then let's see what happens in court. So that's where I come from looking at civil lawsuits for the first time. Civil is strategy. I ran the intro, unless I've lost my mind and my coffee hasn't kicked in. Let's go. Intro. This action is brought by the plaintiffs Crystal Williams, Ariana Davis, and Noel Rodriguez. Pursuant to California statutory, decisional, and regulatory laws, plaintiffs were employees, not contractors, employees of Big Girl Big Touring Inc. Big Girl, I think is, I don't know. There's no I, but there's a lot of R's. I think I pronounced that properly. Hereinafter referred to as BGBT. And Melissa Jefferson, professionally known hereafter as Lizzo. At all times mentioned herein, plaintiffs allege that California's statutory, decisional, and regulatory laws prohibit the conduct. Okay. Jurisdiction and venue. Jurisdiction is proper. Tell me how. Venue in the court is proper. Lizzo is a resident of California and Los Angeles. There are others. I didn't realize that they didn't even give jurisdiction and venue for the others. Okay, so Lizzo's a resident of Los Angeles, but what about the rest of them? Plaintiffs are residents of California. Defendant company is a Delaware corporation. They're going to have to establish, A, why this company can be sued in California. If Lizzo's the only holder of the company, which is possible, then they might allege, but they haven't alleged in the lawsuit that they are I'm totally blanking on the word I want, but they are synonymous. Essentially, there is a legal word that I want that is alter egos. There it is. But it might not be. Defendant Lizzo is a resident in Los Angeles. Okay. Defendant Quigley is in Los Angeles. Okay. So I've got a question about the company. And then, like Natalie Lawyer Chick, I have a question about where these allegations took place. Because it's not just like you live in California and I can sue you for California, because like if you're a California resident, you're on vacation in New Orleans and you like get drunk and punch somebody, they're not necessarily going to have jurisdiction in California to sue you for actions that happen in New Orleans, right? So even though you're a California resident, you were in New Orleans when the action happened, you can be sued there. So we'll have to see what's going on with the Delaware Corporation. They're going to have to establish how the Delaware Corporation can be sued in California. It might be that the Delaware Corporation operates in California as well. There's lots of things that can happen. They should have alleged those here. So everyone else is in California. We also need to know what actions happened in California. Again, when I was a research attorney, the first thing I looked at when I was a research attorney was like permission to yeet. Your Honor, they didn't do this. Yeet. Because it was always faster for me to send it back for them to fix it than to do the mental gymnastics to figure it out without them fixing it. One of my judges was regularly like, oh, yes, let's. The other one was like, we'll remind them and we'll send them a note and we'll make them fix it. Damn it. Because if we yeet, then it might get recycled and I won't have to deal with it. I was trying to streamline my workflow. Yeet. Lawyers out there know that there are many law clerks like me. And if you fuck stuff up, they are going to also look to get rid of your lawsuit immediately. So some judges are very patient and are like, no, let's let them know. And we're going to talk about that in the Mr. Beast lawsuit. He got a heads up from the court by way of an order to show cause. Let's continue. Plaintiff is informed and believes and alleges each of the defendants herein was at all times an agent, employee, representative of each of the defendants, acting within the scope of their agency or employment. We're going to have to talk about that with the company, but here is an issue, just issue. We need to know how the Delaware Corporation gets sued in California. We need to know what actions happen in California. Keep your eye out for it while we're going through this lawsuit. Ask yourself and then tell me what happened in California. Factual allegations. This case centers on 3 professional dancers working for BGBT. Hereinafter referred to as BGBT. You said that up ahead. If you say hereinafter referred to as BGBT, just refer to it that way. Just refer to it that. Just BGBT. We're all on the same page. And Lizzo. Throughout their employment, plaintiffs, I'm going to refer to them as plaintiffs, were subject to a host of violations of California statutory and decisional law. In or about, I like on or about, but okay. In or about March 2021. Oh, that makes sense because there's no date. In March, Davis and Williams were introduced to Lizzo when they were contestants on Lizzo's reality show, Watch Out for the Big Girls. Woofed bug. I don't think we need to do that with this, but okay. Which was released on Amazon Prime Video. During this show, contestants competed for the opportunity to join the Lizzo team as her big girl dancers, accompanying her at live performances and tour. So there's a reality show component. I have not seen it. Okay. In or about May 2021, Davis was required by Lizzo and company to submit a psychological examination to ensure she was psychologically healthy enough to endure the strain of filming a television show. Not uncommon in the world of reality TV. I don't know what Bravo does. I'm very curious. I need to ask. I've never asked. I've just been like ADHD about it and been like, oh, I should ask that. And then I forget. But this happens. During this examination, Davis disclosed that she struggles with anxiety and depression, which occasionally results in binge eating. The waiver of privilege and confidentiality and contestant to evaluation form she signed prior to undergoing the examination states this information disclosed during the evaluation may be provided to production representatives and any other individuals the show deem appropriate by the doctor performing the evaluation or by production. Yeah. So everything that goes on in that evaluation will be turned over to production. Davis is informed and believes that her disclosure of her struggles were relayed to Lizzo and the production company. They probably were. She's probably right about that. They probably were. And the thing about being on a reality show is, and we've seen this in reality show contracts that have leaked, but the contracts that people in reality shows sign are so heavily one-sided. And here's the thing with reality TV, they don't really have the ability to bargain, especially on a new show. Not like someone who is a traditional actor who is A, in a union, and B, might be well known enough that it's like we can't put anybody else in this role. In reality shows, it's like you see the line out there, if you don't want to sign this contract, one of them will. So, do or don't, but you don't really have any leverage or power to negotiate these types of contract, and you're signing everything away. Your likeness rights, anything that you create, any intellectual property you create during the show, you sign away so much when you join reality TV. And there are people who are willing to do it. And that's what reality TV will say. Okay, well, if this person didn't want to do it, that person wants to do it. All right, we'll just take that person then. There's thousands of them who want to do this. So we will. In May, Rodriguez was hired by Lizzo and company. Initially, she was brought in to perform Lizzo's Rumors music video, but she remained with Lizzo and the company as part of the performance group supporting Lizzo at her live concerts. While working on the Rumors music video, Rodriguez was approached with another job opportunity that would have run concurrently to rehearsals for Lizzo's live shows and tours. After rehearsal for Lizzo's live shows were postponed, Rodriguez approached Lizzo's tour manager, Gugliotta, here referred to as Gugliotta, about the possibility of taking this one-day job opportunity. Gugliotta responded, "Do you want the job or not?" implying that if Miss Rodriguez wanted to keep her position as a tour dancer, she could not take other positions. I would be interested to see the contract on that. But also I'm not surprised by that. What if you go take another job and break your ankle or something, even in one day, then doesn't Lizzo have to go find another tour dancer? So I'd be interested in the clause here, because they're saying, well, you have to lose an opportunity. That might be a safety thing. That might be, it's a whole lot of lightning. That might be during the period of time that you're booked for this tour, even if you have a day off, you can't go take other work on your day off. That wouldn't be wild to me. On or about July 28th, 2021, Rodriguez was it just won't stop. Okay, I hear you. Sorry, you guys probably can't hear that. I can. It's rumbly here in Middle Tennessee today, and I'm easily distracted by sound. It's delightful. July 28th, Rodriguez was booked by Lizzo and the company to perform at music festivals in August. Filming for the TV show began. During filming for the show, Davis and Williams were introduced to defendant Quigley. There's so many players in this. Here and after Quigley, Quigley, one of the judges and instructors on the show and captain of the dance team. I'm going to have to watch this show now, aren't I? Quigley was not only vocal about her religious beliefs, but took every opportunity to proselytize to any and all in her presence, regardless of protestations, like, girl, we don't want to hear you. During filming of the show, Quigley took particular interest in Davis and regularly preached to Davis about what Quigley believed to be a shared Christian identity. When you are an employee, you still are allowed to have religious beliefs. Here's the thing you can't do. Quigley can't say, I am the captain of this ship. I get to choose who comes and goes, and I will only hire Christians. And if you are not a Christian, if you are a different religion or no religion, you cannot be hired. You can't discriminate against somebody for religious beliefs. You can talk to them about religious beliefs. I don't know how this stuff will fly. I think it's building to other stuff. We're not going to get into it too deeply because it's so confusing and odd to me. During filming, Quigley discovered that Davis was a virgin, and Davis's virginity became a topic of extreme importance to Quigley. Well, it's a reality TV show. So everything comes up in a reality TV show. I'm not surprised that this came up in a reality TV show. It's weird, but in context, I get it in the context of filming a reality TV show because I watch a lot of reality TV, and everything that comes up that can be plotline becomes plotline, right? It's part of being on a reality show. Is it weird in a work environment? Yes. Is the shit they talk about on every other reality show weird in a work environment? Yes. Anybody watch the OG Jersey Shore? Yes. Weird. I get it. But this is the jury is going to be told, if this goes to a jury, about the context of filming a reality show. And that this is contextual in filming a show, different than somebody walking up to you in your workplace and being like, I don't know how dedicated you are as a human because I didn't see you in church on Sunday. I don't know if we can keep you at this company. That's a whole different thing. Anyway, so the virginity became a huge topic of conversation. Quigley mentioned it in interviews, participated in, and posted about it on social media, broadcasting an intensely personal detail about Davis. Right, ick. That couldn't have been the ick. Ick. As one of the competitions in the show, contestants were told they would be required to participate in a nude photo shoot. Did they ever do nude photo shoots in Next Hot Bottle? I don't remember if they did or not. While some contestants were not bothered by this, the prospect of a nude photo shoot made other contestants severely uncomfortable. I get it. Everybody's like, yep, on Top Model. So again, we have to give context, right? It's like if I went to work at the DA's office and someone's like, what I want you to do, this would never happen, but I'm going to use myself as an example. This would actually, that's a different story. But if somebody was like, what I'm going to need you to do today is a nude photo shoot, I would just be like, what? Because in the context of my job, that makes no sense. In the content or in the context of this reality show, that kind of makes sense. Top Model, you guys are saying they did nudes on RuPaul's Drag Race and on Top Model. So there are contexts to this where if you go to your workplace and they're like, what I'm going to need from you is a nude photo shoot, you'd be like, no way. But if you work at SUR on Vanderpump Rules and they're like, once a year, we do this really scanty photo shoot, this is a part of it. And then you're going to get naked if you're up for it and people got to choose, that's different, right? Because everybody seemed to be down for it. I haven't heard anyone say otherwise when they were the photo shoots for SUR. So context again, would this make a lot of people uncomfortable? Yes. And I see the chat saying they're dancers, not models. And I think there's an argument for that. But they also dance if they know that they're going to be dancing in very scanty costumes. I can see the argument both ways, right? It's like getting hired at Hooters and then being like, those shorts are way too short. Well, you know that is the work uniform and that part of the work is that you're going to be in the teeny shorts. Lizzo's done nude photos. Like, this is part of Lizzo's brand. So I don't know if this would be a massive surprise. But I understand why people are uncomfortable. So, while some contestants were not bothered, others were severely uncomfortable. Girl, I get it. I absolutely get it. Ms. Davis was particularly distressed by this challenge. She was entirely uncomfortable being photographed nude for anyone with access to Amazon Prime to see. I get that. I absolutely get that. And that is one of the things. I am sure there are reality show contestants everywhere who are like, they asked me to do this thing and I was super uncomfortable with it. I don't know. People were on Fear Factor. They made you eat all kinds of weird shit. These contracts are difficult because you sign away your rights to a lot of this. And I can understand the options of not feeling like you could say no in that circumstance. Like, I understand. And feeling like if you say no, and this is a competition show, then you're out. She was entirely uncomfortable. Don't doubt that. As this challenge was part of the competition, right? And how do you say no when you're like, okay, if I don't do this, I'm out? Davis believed poor performance or outright refusal would have resulted in being sent home from the show. She's probably right. And no longer being considered for a spot on the dance team. Probably right. I think that is a reasonable assumption. While Davis did not want to be photographed nude, she also dreaded the thought of not earning a spot on performing on tour. And that's where the pressure is. I get that. This dilemma caused Davis's anxiety to flare, resulting in extreme distress. She broke down in tears on set while struggling to choose between a once-in-a-lifetime career opportunity and putting her body on display against her will. I 100% believe that was tremendously stressful. Ultimately, Davis was allowed to participate in the shoot partially clothed in a nude bra and underwear. So she brought up that she was uncomfortable, and they tried to accommodate her. But also, if you are a backup dancer for Lizzo, are you expected to dance in minimal costuming? Is this part of what that job is going to be? And it seems like this was foreshadowing that is part of what the job was going to be. This experience foreshadowed the sexually charged and uncomfortable environment Lizzo's employees would be forced to endure. And I think there are boundaries, right, between what you are forced to do, what they accommodate, and what is contextually appropriate within your job. So the photo shoot is just setting up the stress. I don't know. I don't think they're filing any causes of action on the Photoshop. Watch out for the Big Girls Rap filming in late September 2021. Davis and Williams were selected to be a part of the dance cast company. So she said, can we accommodate this? And she did the photo shoot in like nude colored bra and panties. And ultimately that paid off and she was selected to be on the tour. Williams, Davis, and Rodriguez performed with Lizzo at festival appearances 2021, 2022. In April 2022, plaintiffs began rehearsing and preparing for the special tour. Plaintiffs worked closely with Quigley as she was the captain of the dance cast. Quigley continued to preach at everyone in her surroundings, especially about her beliefs regarding Christianity and sexuality. Quigley often made comments deriding, don't do that to people. Quigley often made comments deriding people who engaged in premarital sex. You work for Lizzo, man. What? Like you're at what? You're on a reality show where they're having people in a sex positive, body positive environment. And then you're also like the dance captain is preaching at them. Okay. I don't know if this is going to be a cause of action. It's not a great work environment. And it's odd. Deriding people who engaged in premarital sex. Did she yell at Lizzo about being sex positive? I have questions. I have questions. Like, how is this the dance captain? Quigley also had a party trick in which she would simulate oral sex on a banana in front of the rest of the dance cast. What is happening? Either are you doing both? Are you deriding people about premarital sex and telling them how to get better blowies? What is happening? These instances were always unprompted and made the plaintiffs feel uncomfortable. Right, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that was uncomfortable as hell. Quigley's sexually inappropriate behavior did not stop at faux fellatio. Good morning, everybody. Is it noon yet? Despite her staunch beliefs in opposition to premarital sex, I mean, does oral sex not count? Is she just like, give me one margarita, then we're fine? But if you go to the 2 margaritas, it's a problem. But if you get to 3 margaritas, maybe it's okay again. I'm very confused about this. Chat, I see you, chat. So despite her staunch beliefs in opposition to premarital sex, she had no problem sharing her masturbatory habits with the dance cast. So she's like, here for Jesus and AdamandEve.com. Often stating things to the effect of masturbating is against my religion, but today I had an oopsie. What is happening? Squishy Bee, this is brilliant. I agree, faux fellatio would be a great drag name. What is happening? This is like, where's Peter Mon when we need him? Peter, I need you to scream, she's not a Christian for me. Peter Mon, if you don't watch Peter Mon, occasionally I don't know what it's from. I know it from Peter Mon. We'll be like, she's not a Christian. I'm not here to shame anyone about their religion. You do you. However, don't convert people at your workplace who aren't interested. I would say the same if you're keto. Look, religious beliefs, dietary habits, politics, let people do them. Don't try to shame them. You know, don't go out to lunch and be like, it's a lot of carbs. Aren't you doing keto? I'm doing keto. I don't give a shit if you're doing keto. I'm having fries, Brian. All of this is strange. All of this is a weird work environment. But I also want to know if this is on the show, not on the show. It seems like this is when they're on tour. This is a lot. I just want to know what causes of action they tie this to. Hot 3, I don't have any beef with keto unless people try to make me do it. I also don't want to be told that I need to be vegan or vegetarian or pick any other thing. I just don't want to be told what to do, basically. I don't want to be told what to do at all. Don't tell me what to think. Don't tell me what to believe. Don't tell me what to eat. There was a period of time where the keto bros kind of took over the workplace. So, but it's the same thing. Like I think it's the same thing. Maybe it's not. I'm not trying to diminish religious beliefs. I'm saying don't proselytize to people at work unless they ask you for your help. If somebody's like, hey, I see you go to work out at lunch. I want to go work out at lunch. Could we go work out at lunch together? Fine. Talk about your favorite protein shake. That's been asked for. Nobody asked for this in this work environment. And also, this seems to be the opposite of this work environment, right? Opposite of this work environment. This work environment seems like a sex positive, body positive work environment. And this woman's like, don't have sex before marriage. Also, blow a banana and oopsie. And also, what adult is calling masturbation an oopsie? What the fuck is happening? So we've gotten from faux fellatio to Jesus and AdamandEve.com. Quigley's sexually explicit comments were so pervasive, the entire dance team knew about her sexual fantasy of having 10 penises in her face. That's an awful specific number. Ma'am, also why? That's a lot of dick. I have so many questions. Okay, I'm not going to derail. This is inappropriate workplace conversation. Don't do that. Also, did Lizzo know that the dance captain was just tormenting the dance team with the don't have premarital sex but put your dick in my face conversations? So weird. But this is why Quigley's being sued, right? They're suing Quigley for this stuff. Similar to Quigley, right? Have I lost my mind? Somewhere at faux fellatio, my brain stopped. Right. Quigley is a defendant here. I know all of you are like 10 penises is definitely outside of marriage. We're definitely well outside of traditional Christian beliefs. Similar to Miss Quigley's constant sexually inappropriate comments, Quigley's ministering to plaintiffs was unceasing. I don't know if she was like, if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to get fired, or you have to believe what I believe to get, the better dance parts or better positioning on stage or whatever. So we'll see if that comes up. But also, you have a First Amendment right to talk about your religion. I think it's inadvisable in this context, but I don't know if it's discriminatory yet. We'll see. When cast members told Rodriguez of Quigley's intent, Rodriguez specifically requested that Quigley refrain from impressing her religious beliefs upon Rodriguez. Good for you, Rodriguez. Quigley became irate and yelled at Rodriguez at one point on tour. Quigley stated, "No job and no one will stop me from talking about the Lord." Ma'am, you are at work in a sex-positive environment, and all they want to do is do their job. Leave them be. Also, this is the woman who's apparently preaching about the only way to be a proper Christian was through abstinence. The one that wants the 10 dicks in her face. Okay. Quigley interrogated Davis about her religious beliefs. This shouldn't be happening in a workplace. While in a dressing room doing their makeup in advance of a show, Quigley began stating her own religious beliefs and asking Davis if she held the same beliefs. If this person seems like they are in a supervisory position, so when Davis expressed a different belief than Quigley became visibly upset, making it abundantly clear she expected Davis's total conformity. That's where we're going to start running into a problem. If this is a supervisor in a position to impact your job, discriminating against you because you don't hold the same belief as them, that can be an issue. While Quigley was for sure the most extreme in her religious convictions, her sentiments were softly echoed by others in supervisory roles. This seems odd to me. Before rehearsals and performances, the dance team would pray together. That's not odd within show business. That happens quite a lot. While it was not an official requirement for team members to participate in these prayers, it became clear that engagement was compulsory. This is a lot of this lawsuit. Like, it wasn't officially made a requirement, but it was a requirement, but it wasn't a spoken requirement. The responsibility to lead the group in prayer rotated across the dancers, and when it was Rodriguez's turn, she politely made it clear that she would not lead the prayer. Couldn't she have just said, break a leg out there, guys? I don't know. Despite Rodriguez declining every time she was asked, Quigley continued to pressure her to participate and made Rodriguez feel judged for declining to lead the dance cast prayer. And that, I don't know how, I want to see if that impacted Rodriguez's work going forward. Was she given not as prominent placement on stage? Was she given less desirable dance roles? Like, was something then done to her where, because she didn't agree with the dance captain's religious beliefs, she was then put in a worse position? Curious. Rodriguez took her concern to the assistant choreographer, Miss Charlotte, who showed some empathy for Rodriguez's concern, but suggested Rodriguez take her complaints to Quigley herself. A wholly useless tactic, as raising concerns with Quigley had never proven productive. I mean, it seems that that's the case. While on tour with Lizzo, Williams, okay, we're now switching players. That was between Rodriguez and Quigley. Now we're switching to Lizzo and Williams. Like, we're switching parties in the lawsuit. Lizzo and Williams, on tour with Lizzo, Williams accidentally brushed up against one of the tour bus drivers. The driver responded by saying, "You can back up on me again." Is that driver being sued? Implying Miss Williams' accidental touch gave him sexual gratification. I mean, nobody wants that happening in their workplace. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that at all. A different driver was known to play sexually explicit songs on the tour bus. Whose songs were they? I have questions. Whose songs were they? What were they playing? Lizzo's music on the tour bus? Were they playing friends of Lizzo's? Like, these interactions made the dance cast incredibly uncomfortable and fear for their safety. I would be curious as to how they asked for that to shift. Ms. Davis and Rodriguez reported the driver's inappropriate behavior to management. Oh, good. We're answering it. To management on multiple occasions, but management never did anything to protect the dancers. And then what happened? Management merely questioned whether the drivers were drunk. That would be deeply problematic. Somebody was talking about Pony from Genuine, featured prominently on our water polo sprinter vans when I was in college, all the time. Management questioned whether the drivers were drunk or driving safely and did nothing to make the dancers feel any safer than they did prior to reporting the driver's behavior. After several reports by Davis and Rodriguez, management began denying ever hearing about the driver's inappropriate behavior, and that's a problem. They said, look, this is an issue. And I can understand not wanting to be on a bus with somebody that's like, you can back up on me again. We would need more context, but I could see a jury being like, okay, then what happened though? The domestic leg of the special tour came to a close. Problems became more abundant when the last show being played about November 19th, 2022. The Europe leg not scheduled to start until February. So a break for the holidays, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Plaintiffs began looking for other work as they were only paid for time spent on tour. Company preferred plaintiffs not to take additional gigs and instructed plaintiffs' agents to place them on a soft hold. So my understanding is to keep them available for when tour resumed, meaning plaintiffs would not be paid during the break, but should not take other jobs during the break. And that's a tough one. We'll have to see what comes up. I would be interested what their contract said. They were employees, but they're not getting paid during the break. So I can see why they would want to take other gigs, but I can also see why a company would want to say, hey, if you get hurt taking that other gig, we need you in 2 months, that could be a huge problem because then we have to train another dancer if you get injured taking another gig. I can see this both ways. I'm interested to see what their contracts say about those soft holds. And I wonder if it's all jobs. Like you could take modeling jobs or acting jobs or commercial work, but not dance jobs. Like I have more questions about that. Due to BGBT's soft prohibition on plaintiffs and their team members taking on other jobs, they became wholly financially dependent on the income they received for their performances on the special tour. The dancers learned that the musicians and other members of tour were on retainer, in which they were paid a portion of their tour rate while on break from tour in exchange for not taking other jobs. Well, it seems like if everybody else is getting partial pay for the soft hold, like, hey, we know you're not taking other jobs, here's partial pay, then they should too. Plaintiffs and their team members started discussing among themselves how they would negotiate for a retainer of their own. Good for you. These discussions continued through the start of the European leg. Making matters more stressful, plaintiffs and the dance cast were only ever given 2 weeks advance notice that they were booked for tour performances. I don't know if you can sue over that, though. This lack of notice placed plaintiffs in purgatory. That would be real frustrating, not knowing whether they should start looking for other jobs or wait on Lizzo's performances to resume. The insecurity made obtaining a retainer of utmost importance to the dance cast. Okay. On February 7th, plaintiffs arrived in London to start rehearsals and perform with Lizzo at the Brit Awards show. So I don't know where any of the rest of this took place. It seems like it took place all over the US. None of this says it specifically took place in Los Angeles. I don't even know if they were hired in Los Angeles. Like, where was the show filmed and where were those contracts done? I don't know if any of this action has ties in LA or in California. But that would be frustrating. I don't know what that would be look like. Do actors have to deal with that too? Where you're just like, ugh. I don't know if I'm working. I don't know if I'm not working. I can't take another job because I might be working. And I imagine they would want the job on Lizzo's tour more than they would want the job on the other tour. On or about February 23rd, plaintiffs performed with Lizzo at a show in Amsterdam. After this will be explicit. Just so you know. This will be explicit. Heads up, we're in Amsterdam. Proceed with caution. After the show, Lizzo invited the dancers out with her team on the town. Invited. Not forced, invited. These invitations were not unusual and attendance was not mandatory. Here's the thing. We're going to have to talk about if attendance is not mandatory. Is it not mandatory or is it like kind of not mandatory? And even though what happens is more graphic than a lot of things, you guys have jobs. Have you ever had that one boss who's like, let's all go to happy hour? And you're like, I'm tired as fuck. I don't want to talk to you people and I have to go home. But you know that the people who go to happy hour are closer to that particular boss or supervisor, or the people who go golfing or the people who do whatever. This is different, but it feels like, is it mandatory, not mandatory? Or is it like coercively mandatory? Like if you don't go, you know it's a problem. Like you know that you're not going to be in the same position work-wise. And this gets really sticky for work because it feels like you have to, even if you don't want to. But they're saying, you don't have to. But do you not have to or do you have to? Voluntold. Jodell said I was being voluntold. It's like you're invited. You're invited. You don't have to come. Do you? Attendance was not mandatory. I think that might be hard for a jury, but we'll see. Because a lot of you have had that work environment where it's like attendance is not mandatory, but it kind of is. But it's well known that the dance cast members were expected to endear themselves to Lizzo. Yeah, they all wanted to be friends and hang out. Christina said, and they used it against you as an example of not being a team player, right? And I wonder if that's here as well. Desert Dove said obligatory, not mandatory. Right. It's like, Not mandatory, but expected. It's like, well, you don't have to come. But then you get questioned, right? If you don't go, it's like, but why don't you want to be with us? Like, why don't you want to come out with us? Why don't you want to hang with us? Are you truly, are you not a team player, right? And this is hard because this is coercive. And then it's, well, sexually explicit. So the dance cast members were expected to like hang with Lizzo. Lizzo often mentioned that she had eyes and ears everywhere and only wanted good people with good energy around her. I want good people with good energy around me too. I don't know if that's negative. Those who attended after party events Lizzo planned were often favored because you're Lizzo. And if you're like, I invited them and they didn't come out, don't you think Lizzo would be like, I invited you. How could you not come out with me? So those who attended events Lizzo planned were often favored, selected to perform with Lizzo at shows outside of regularly scheduled tour dates, and were widely considered to enjoy greater job security. How they flush that out in front of a jury will be really interesting. Like, yeah, the people who went out all the time were the ones who got a retainer, were the ones who got their contracts earlier. Being able to show this will matter. By not attending, dancers are not only risked losing out on being selected for additional shows and therefore additional income, but risk being ostracized from the group, putting their continued enjoyment or continued employment in jeopardy. So this can be part of that hostile work environment, right? There is hostile work environment claims here that some of this is starting to create a hostile work environment where you don't have to go, but if you don't go, well, we'll see what happens. This particular evening, Lizzo sent out an invite through her close friend and member of the dance cast, Shawanta, last name unknown. Davis and Rodriguez were out at dinner celebrating the birthday of one of the supporting vocal performers on tour when they received the invite. The dancers were hurried, including plaintiffs, to accept or declined. Feeling their absence would be noticed or taken personally by their employer, plaintiffs accepted the invitation before learning what Lizzo had in store for them. As it turns out, Lizzo planned a night in Amsterdam's notorious red light district, known for its abundant sex theaters, sex shops, and clubs and bars where nudity is on full display. The main event of the night was a club called Bananen Bar. That's the foreshadowing you needed. It's called the Bananen Bar, where patrons are allowed to interact with completely nude performers. When I think that's the point of the red light district. Maybe I'm wrong. When plaintiffs expressed misgivings about the plans for the night, Shawanta stated that it was too late to back out because she'd already sent Lizzo the head count for the evening. Is that the now you're forced? Once you figured it out, you're just like, I don't want to go do that. And then it's like, it's too late. Again, feeling the looming pressure of job insecurity, should plaintiffs abstain from attending, plaintiffs reluctantly went along. I want to know if the dance captain was there. This is silent as to the questions I want to know. Was Quigley there? Because once they find out what it is and say, I am kind of not wanting to do that, and she's like, it's too late. You already said you were in. Now you can't be out. Does that tip it over to you? Does that tip the thing when your employer's bestie is like, you got to go? I need to know if Quigley was there. Well, at the Banana Bar, things quickly got out of hand. This is where a lot of the headlines came from. I don't doubt that all of this happened, by the way. Don't doubt it at all. But even if all of this happened, that's where we're still like, okay, if all of this happened, then what? Well, at the bar, things quickly got out of hand. Lizzo began inviting cast members to take turns touching the nude performers, catching dildos launched from the performers' vaginas. I just have questions like what exercises are we doing to make this happen? How does it operate that way? It can launch things. I'm not going to Google. I suggest you probably don't, but I have questions. And eating bananas protruding from the performers' vaginas. The launched word is what catches my attention here. I have questions. But also, when you're out at a work event, we're now at a work event where we're encouraging people to eat, vagina bananas. Where's Quigley? I want to know, where is Quigley? Tell me where Quigley is. Lizzo then turned her attention to Davis and began pressuring Davis to touch the breasts of one of the nude women performing at the club. Lizzo began a chant goading Davis, and Davis said 3 times, loud enough for her to hear, "I'm good." That would be a really unquestionable evening out with the boss. Right? Any of you been to strip clubs with your bosses? I imagine that shit's real uncomfortable. She's like, "I'm good. I'm good." Expressing her desire not to touch the performer. And again, she should be able to not to. Not everybody wants to touch boobs. I mean, I guess. She's like, "I am all good." The chant grew louder and more strident, demanding a visibly uncomfortable Davis to engage with the performer. Davis reiterated her discomfort, stating, "I'd rather not. I'm cool here in the corner." Davis is like, "Get me the fuck out of here. I do not need my boss making me do things I'm not comfortable doing." Finally, the chorus became overwhelming, and a mortified Davis acquiesced in an attempt to bring an end to the chants. Uncomfortable. Not good behavior. If somebody's uncomfortable with something, let them be. Davis is like, "Fuck this, man." After Davis briefly touched the performer's breast, the group burst into laughter. Davis abashedly laughed along, trying to hide how uncomfortable this interaction made her, as so many do when we are uncomfortable. You just kind of laugh to make it all fucking stop. Davis seems deeply uncomfortable with this. I get it. Her efforts to conceal her discomfort were apparently unsuccessful. On separate occasions, management in attendance, as well as Lizzo's security team, asked Davis if she was okay. She replied kind of to one request and no to another. This shouldn't be happening in a work environment. And I get it that this is an after-work activity, but is it an after-work activity if attendance is feeling mandatory? And again, they are talking about a hostile work environment. So does this make the work environment feel hostile? Right? And I think a lot of people would look at this and be like, this makes a work environment feel hostile. This is taking it beyond like everybody's going out for a drink. This has gone way above and beyond. The question is, this all happened in Amsterdam. What happened in Los Angeles? It doesn't mean this isn't actionable somewhere. I just don't know if what happened in Amsterdam is actionable in California. I've got questions. This is not workplace behavior. And if you are the boss, what you can't do is force your employees to engage in this. This doesn't feel like someone who has people around her saying this is a bad idea. This feels like shit that YouTubers get themselves into, right? With the employee that sued James Charles for James Charles making her shave his butt before he wore assless chaps to Coachella. It feels like there's just no boundaries here. And it's like, but we're a fun workplace. It's like not fun for these employees. Some employees might be down to go out to the banana bar with Lizzo after work. These employees are not down. Clearly. Someone in the chat just mentioned a movie that I love very much. Peg. Yes, this is exactly what I was thinking. Exactly what I was thinking. Exactly what I was thinking. So, upon her return to the main club, Lizzo began pressuring a member of her security team to participate in the night's debauchery. Lizzo badgered the security guard to get on the club stage until he submitted to her demands. When he got on stage, his pants were pulled down, exposing his buttocks. Lizzo began yelling, "Take it off," while a club performer hit the security guard with whips. I mean, the security guard's not suing. We don't know how the security guard feels about it. The security guard might come and testify, like, this is not okay. I didn't want to do this at all. What do you do when your boss is yelling at you? Take it off. Like, can you imagine your boss yelling at you, take it off, no matter the work environment? It's too much. And the reason they're including this here, I think, is to argue this is the environment that it's created. The environment that you can't say no matter what. And that becomes the hostile work environment. This has gone like, is this something that would kind of shock the conscience? Like, your boss made you do what? Your boss is yelling at you to touch people who are naked when you don't want to, get spanked when you don't want to. Shouldn't somebody be down for the spank? Like, isn't there anyone on the team that's down for it? Let them do it. So, plaintiffs were aghast with how little regard Lizzo showed for the bodily autonomy of her employees and those around her, especially in the presence of many people whom she employed. Don't worry, there are sexual harassment claims here. March 5th, 2023, after performing in Paris, France, Lizzo again invited the dancers out and told them they were going to the Crazy Horse, a place where there would be live dancers performing and they would be able to learn something or be inspired by the performance. To me, that feels like mandatory, right? That feels mandatory. That doesn't feel like an invitation. It's like, you might learn something. You might be inspired. You're a dancer. We're going to go see dancers. That feels mandatory to me. Let me know in the chat if that feels mandatory to you. What Lizzo failed to mention was inviting dancers to this performance was that it was a nude cabaret bar. I don't know if the dancers could have presumed that after what happened in Amsterdam and the fact that it is the Crazy Horse and the Crazy Horse is famous. But this feels like mandatory. Not until the curtain opened and the nude women began to dance on stage did plaintiffs know what they were in store for. I mean, I don't think it hurts your case if you're like, we didn't want to go. We knew it was a nude cabaret, but we were told we needed to go to learn something. This feels mandatory. Not only were plaintiffs under the same pressure as before to go out with Lizzo after the performance, but this time the fact that they would be attending a show where nudity was prominently featured was hidden from them. I don't know if it was hidden, but also I don't think it matters if it was hidden or not. She could have said, you can learn something. We're going to the Crazy Horse. It's a nude cabaret. They still are being told they have to go. I don't know if it matters one way or the other. The show at the Crazy Horse was artful and nowhere near as uncomfortable as their outing to the Banana Bar. Plaintiffs were shocked that Lizzo would conceal the nature of the event from them, robbing them of their choice to participate or not. I don't think the concealing was what robbed them of their choice. I think it's the you need to learn something and be inspired that was them being told to go. That's just how I interpret it. March 9th, the dance team submitted their request for a retainer of 50% of their weekly tour rate to ensure they would be paid for their time off on break from touring, since the company and Lizzo strongly preferred them not take other jobs during the break. I wonder if this is getting into retaliation. On March 16th, the last show of the European leg, on or about March 16th, the last show of the European special tour was played. Before the show, the accountant from the company, Ashley Joshi, I'm going to refer to Ashley as accountant, sent an email there's too many names to keep straight. Sent an email responding to the dancers' retainer request. In the email, accountant offered a retainer of 25% of the weekly tour rate, exactly half of what the dancers requested, but more than they had gotten before, which was nothing. So they negotiated with their employer. Additionally, accountant took the opportunity to scold the dancers for unacceptable and disrespectful behavior while on tour, stating it was cause for termination. Are they being threatened for asking for a raise? I have a lot of questions. About whether or not they felt like they were being threatened and retaliated against for asking essentially for what the other members got. Because earlier they said the singers and the musical cast got a retainer where they were not able to take other gigs, but were paid some retainer for that downtime. So you let me know what you think. Because if you're a jury, I mean, I would want to see the email, right? If you're a juror, can you see like, how dare you ask for a raise? But I need more info. Nowhere in the email did accountant explain why she or the company deemed unacceptable or disrespectful. So then is the employee left to assume it's asking for pay that's unacceptable and disrespectful? Only the dance cast, comprised of full-figured women of color, were ever spoken to in this manner, giving plaintiffs the impression that these comments were charged with racial and fatphobic animus. This email marked the beginning of a strained relationship between the dancers and management. So where we're at, before we finish going through the factual allegations here, where we're at is they have the uncomfortable night in Amsterdam. They have the uncomfortable night in France. They had asked for that retainer before that. After that event, they're told, you're getting 25% instead of 50, which is not uncommon for an employer to negotiate back down lower. You're getting 25% and 50. We don't know how much the others were getting. But after they asked for more money, then the relationship became strained, is how they're positing all of this. And they're saying that only the dance cast was talked about that. And the chat brought it up. Are the dance cast members the only non-union members here? It's possible. It's possible. I don't know if the musicians and the singers are or are not, but they are saying the dancers are not being treated the same as everyone else. And that strained the relationship. Asking for the pay, it seems like that everybody else was getting too, strained the relationship there. Plaintiffs and their fellow dancers were blindsided by the allegations of the email and requested a meeting with Kevin, Mr. Beasler, who agreed to meet. Who is he? You keep introducing characters and you don't tell me who they are. Who is Kevin? Help me. We have gotten to the point of the lawsuit where it feels like I am listening to my son retell me a story from band camp, and I know who nobody is. And I'm like, who? They said what? To who? Those two used to date? Okay. Wait, they're freshmen? Okay. Wait, who now? What instrument do they play? Like it feels like trying to follow a story where I know who no one is. Tell me who Kevin is. Kevin! All right. Kevin initially agreed to meet, but when he arrived for the meeting, he simply stated he had no time to talk with the dancers, even though he had devoted ample time to discussions with musicians and vocalists performing on tour that same day. Because everybody talks on tour. So I trust that they know that this in fact happened. Kevin promised he would make time to talk with the dance cast over Zoom regarding the cast concerns, but never followed through. Who is Kevin, and does he have a position of power here? What is Kevin in charge of? Can you help me understand? The performers dance that night and then return to the United States shortly thereafter. So they feel like they're being blown off. Back in the States, the dancers were once again placed on a soft hold and unable to take other jobs. Shows were not due to resume for over a month, but they had the retainer, it seems, at this point. Fortunately, on or about April 4th, the dancers were able to agree on a 50% retainer. Oh, so they asked for 50, they were told they'd get 25, and then they got 50? Okay. Ladies, you've negotiated well. You got yourselves to 50%. Good for you. Despite the advances the dancers made in obtaining a retainer, it became clear that management had begun to lash out at the dancers. So they seem to be insinuating that there's some retaliation here for asking for a raise. Workplace retaliation is a problem, and there are causes of action for it. Allison coming in the chat. Kevin Beasler, executive producers. Lizzo, watch out for the Big Girls Prime show. So production. Is Kevin a defendant? Kevin is not a defendant. So Kevin is an executive producer, so I can understand. They wanted to talk to production, and Kevin's like, the dancers feel that Kevin blew him off, or them off. Okay. Specifically, management treated the Black members of the dance team differently than other members of the dance team or other members of the touring group. That's my question there. Company management team consisted almost entirely of white Europeans who often accused the Black members of the dance team of being lazy, unprofessional, and having bad attitudes. Not only do those words ring familiar as tropes used to disparage and discourage Black women from advocating for themselves, but the same accusations were not levied against dancers who were not Black. And I imagine that they will have those dancers come and testify at some point, because those dancers would be like, okay, no, we weren't called lazy and unprofessional. We weren't told we were having bad attitudes. So this is going to come down to the facts when it's presented. But that can, if you're treating people differently because of their race, that's racial discrimination. On or about April 20th, 2023, the dance cast was scheduled for an 8-hour rehearsal. I want to know where this is. Are we in LA now? Where in the world is this rehearsal happening? Where in the world is this dance rehearsal? Scheduled for an 8-hour rehearsal. Near the end of rehearsal, Lizzo arrived and called the dance cast together for a meeting to address the rumors of unprofessionalism. I have questions. During this meeting, Lizzo also stated that the dancers were not performing up to par and repeatedly accused the dancers of drinking alcohol before the shows, even though the dance cast had never partaken in such a practice. Lizzo then stated all the dancers would be required to re-audition for their spots, and if Lizzo was dissatisfied with their performance at the end of the day, the dancers would be fired and sent home. Is this at the end of the 8 hours? They were scheduled for an 8-hour rehearsal near the end of rehearsal, so near the end of the 8 hours. 8 hours is a long day. What followed was an excruciating re-audition in which the dancers repeatedly ran through the entire 90-minute show. What was supposed to be an 8-hour rehearsal was extended to almost 12 hours. Did they get overtime? Did they get break time? I have questions. But it sounds like they did a full 8-hour day. And then Lizzo came in and was like, and now you're re-auditioning. Employment laws have lots of break times and things that are required here. And this might be a violation of that. The re-audition was brutal. You're allowed to make people re-audition, but break times. And having people re-audition at the end of an 8-hour rehearsal is tough. The re-audition was brutal as the dancers were not allowed a break. During the run-through of the show, Davis felt she needed to excuse herself to use the restroom. However, she was afraid that if she left the stage at any point, she would be fired. And this is going to the fear, right? I want to know if she asked. Davis pressed on as long as she could until she lost control of her bladder. So she had to go to the bathroom. She felt she couldn't take a break. And then she peed. I don't know if she asked to use the bathroom, though. Still fearing the repercussions of exiting the stage during the run-through, Davis remained on stage dancing in soiled clothes until there was a segment of the show where the cast was not on stage and were allowed a short break. And that's hard. But it seems to be added in, A, because it's a lot of a big allegation, and B, it goes to the fear, right? It's like they're afraid to even ask to use the restroom at this point. And they're afraid that if they ask, that it's going to count against them in some way. Davis was utterly embarrassed and hurried backstage to change into clean clothes. The only clothing available to Davis was a see-through garment provided by wardrobe, making her feel exposed and even more embarrassed. Davis was required to finish the rehearsal dancing in front of male crew members who were known to sexualize dancers under less revealing scenarios, while wearing completely transparent shorts and no undergarments. After rehearsal was finally over, nothing was said to the dancers. They were left with the impression that they were to show up the next day. Not a great work environment. On April 12th, 2023, though, dancing can also be grueling. It's just, this is the thing where you take all of this is true, but then you go to a jury and a jury's going to say, but did you ask to use the bathroom and were denied the ability to use the bathroom? And at some point, where does that fall on whether it is the employer's fault or not? And if the overall environment is such that there is such a hostile work environment that people are afraid to take a bathroom break, then a jury's going to be like, this is a hostile work environment. Of course they can't ask. So this is going to come down to facts in front of a jury, truly. But it seems like there was a lot of fear here from these dancers and afraid to be like, if I ask to take a break, they're going to fire me on the spot and I need my job. And that's a very real fear. I'm sure some of you have been like, I should speak up about this, but if I do, I'm going to lose my job. So I cannot. I get it. And if you have a jury of people that are like, oh, I've done that at work. I've wanted to speak up about something and I've chosen not to because I've been afraid. That's where we start seeing these overarching themes of hostile work environment come in. And this is kind of I don't know, this becomes the bigger picture of it, right? Peggy, I see your statement. Yes, I know Lizzo put out a statement. We're going to talk to that next. I can't believe we are over an hour and a half into this. I need to move faster. Sorry. Penny C, I think there are NDAs. I think there are lots of NDAs, but this is a lawsuit. And bringing legal action is often exempt in NDAs. So, let's see. Once again, Lizzo mentioned drinking alcohol before the show was prohibited. As this accusation was not based on any sort of reality, Williams raised her hand and asked to speak. Williams went on to rebut the accusation of drinking on the job, stating that the dancers had never drank prior to shows. Quigley immediately supported Williams, confirming Quigley's back. Where was Quigley in Amsterdam? This whole complaint is silent to what Quigley was doing in Amsterdam. Was Quigley also forced to go to the shows in Amsterdam and in France? Quigley immediately supported Williams, confirming that the dancers never drank before shows, and that's the dance captain who had a difficult relationship with them. Lizzo mockingly responded, well, if you're not, then good for y'all. Then stated that maybe the accusations of drinking before the shows were on account of the dancers' poor performance. From this moment on, tension between Lizzo, management, and Williams was palpable. So again, it seems that people are afraid to speak up. On April 21st, Davis was called into a private meeting with Lizzo and the choreographer, Tanisha Scott. Lizzo Scott questioned whether Davis was struggling with something as she seemed less committed to her role on the dance cast. Lizzo and Scott pressed Davis for an explanation as to why she seemed less bubbly and vivacious than she did prior to the tour starting. In professional dance, a dancer's weight gain is often seen as that dancer getting lazy or worse off as a performer. Lizzo and Ms. Scott's questions about Davis's commitment to the tour were thinly veiled concerns about Davis's weight gain. Again, they are going to have to argue to a jury that multiple employees felt this way, and it's not just this employee's perception, because even if it's true, it is based on this employee's perception. But I can see that being like, are you really committed? Being a thinly veiled threat. So, thinly veiled concerns about Davis's weight gain, which Lizzo had previously called attention to after noticing it at South by Southwest. Again, I would need more details of that. And the details of that prior instance will help give context to the next instance. Davis stated she was dealing with personal issues, but it did not, nor would she ever let it affect her work. Not only had Davis's performance as a dancer not slipped, but Davis had also become a better dancer than she was when hired. Lizzo and Ms. Scott were not satisfied with Davis's answer and continued to press. Just as she was at Banana Bar, Lizzo was relentless until Davis bent to her demands. Although Lizzo and Scott never explicitly stated it, these questions, accompanied by Lizzo's statements made at South by Southwest, what statements, gave Davis the impression, I need to know the statements to understand the impression, which is hard. Like, I need to understand the statements to understand the impression. Ms. Davis the impression that she needed to explain her weight gain and disclose intimate personal details about her life in order to keep her job. Davis shared that she had been struggling with anxiety and depression and had been diagnosed with binge eating disorder. Davis explained her diagnosis and struggles and made it clear that in spite of her mental health struggles, she was still committed to the tour and performing to the top of her capabilities. Lizzo and Scott dismissively offered her time off of rehearsals to attend therapy. I don't know. I need more context. I need more context to know what the schedule was like, to know if it was dismissive, because she's saying this is dismissive. Lizzo and Miss Scott are probably going to say, no, we saw that you were struggling and we wanted to give you time off rehearsal to attend therapy. This is going to be a difficult, I need more context, because if it's a genuine offer, I just need more context for this. But again, there's a lot in this lawsuit that I'm like, I don't think that's actionable. Some of it is, but if it feels like she's saying, okay, take some time, we can give you some time. She said this offer seemed strange to Davis and made her feel like if she accepted the time off, they would see her as too weak to continue as a member of the dance cast. So she declined, thinking it was the only way to keep her job. I need more context. This meeting took place immediately before a show, and although Davis was hurt and emotionally drained by being forced to tell her employers about personal struggles, is Miss Scott HR in this circumstance. Like in corporate settings, this is where you would normally have HR involved and there would be process. I don't think a tour rolls with HR with them. But the lead choreographer was there. Let's see. Let's get back to where we were. I don't know what day that was, and I don't know where in the world that was. Oh, that was April 21st. Okay, now we're at April 26th. Williams was terminated in the lobby of the hotel the dancers were staying at by Miss Giulietta under the guise of budget cuts. That would be embarrassing and mortifying, but how did we go from Davis to Williams? Like, why did Williams all of a sudden get fired? Oh, the tension was palpable after Williams stood up and said they weren't drinking, and then Davis had the issue where she feels that her weight is being made an issue of, and then Williams gets fired. We're jumping back and forth between plaintiffs, and it's hard to follow. Williams was terminated in the lobby of the hotel. That is a shitty way to fire someone. Williams was the only dancer to get fired this day. Stunned, Williams asked to speak to Lizzo. Giulietta responded. Who is Giulietta? Well, we got to her at the beginning. Giulietta? Responded telling Williams that Lizzo isn't the best with these things. She has a lot going on. Undeterred, Williams continued to ask to speak with Lizzo until Giulietta stated Miss Williams does not have the best attitude. Does not have the best attitude at time and comes across as snarky. Rodriguez then spoke to Giulietta, expressing disagreement with the decision to publicly terminate Williams. Giulietta responded that it had to be done and stated, "We've never had any problems with you." So Rodriguez has been sticking up for her coworkers this entire lawsuit. The next day, all the dancers were called into a meeting with Lizzo to discuss notes on how they'd been dancing. Prior to discussing performances, Lizzo addressed Williams being fired. I mean, pull somebody aside. You don't need to just fire someone in the hotel lobby in the middle of a tour. Where are they? Also, where in the world are they? Prior to discussing performances, Lizzo addressed Williams being fired. During the meeting, Lizzo stated she heard that one of the dancers questioned why Lizzo hadn't fired Williams directly. Lizzo repeatedly demanded to know who was questioning her decision to fire Williams, and once again reminded the dance cast that she had eyes and ears everywhere. Obviously, she was told that the decision was questioned, right? And this, again, there are hostile work environment claims here. This goes to, hey, people are afraid. Rodriguez doesn't seem afraid. Rodriguez is like, I'm questioning things all the way through. We'll get there. During the meeting, Lizzo stated she heard one of the dancers questioned her, repeatedly demanding to know who questioned her decision to fire Williams. Lizzo stated her preference that the dance cast refrain from socializing with Williams before Williams left New Orleans. Oh, so they're in New Orleans, where the tour was performing that night. Afterwards, Lizzo finally gave the group performance notes. Okay. She preferred they refrain from socializing with Williams. I'm sure a lot of employers would like that you don't get together with employees that have recently quit or been fired, but you can't make them not do that. Davis, who suffers from an eye condition, which Lizzo and company were aware of, sometimes becomes disoriented in stressful situations as a result of the condition. We're back to Davis, not Williams. Accordingly, Davis has a habit of making audio recordings of stressful interactions so she can review them later in less stressful environments. As the tour camp had become incredibly tense for Davis, and the original intent of the meeting was for Lizzo to provide performance notes that could be crucial to the dancers' employment, Davis recorded the meeting so she could review it later. On May 3rd, the dancers were called into an emergency wardrobe fitting. As they arrived for the fitting, management and security were there waiting for the dance cast. Security took each dancer's phone as they entered the room. I have a lot of questions about that. Once all were in the room and their phones were collected, Lizzo entered. Lizzo stated that she knew one of the dancers recorded their meeting on April 27th. Lizzo became furious, hurling expletives at the group, and stated she was going to go around the room, person by person, until someone told her who made the recording. Don't do that. 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 And I see in the chat, Ali saying recording meetings is a no-no. I completely understand that. Unless unless because of her condition that her employer knew about, this was a workplace accommodation. And if it was like, I need to review dance notes more than once, if that is the workplace condition or the workplace accommodation, then she might have been allowed to record meetings. But we don't know because they don't tell us. We don't know, and they didn't tell us. That might have been an accommodation. And again, we don't know, and they don't tell us. How Lizzo knows about the recording, I don't know. Someone told Lizzo, which means someone other than Davis knew a recording was made, because Davis obviously didn't tell Lizzo. So somebody knew the recording was made. And it seems that the recording was made of more than just about the dance notes. Davis admitted that she recorded the meeting and explained it was because she wanted a copy of the notes that Lizzo had given them about their performances, explained that she never intended to harm Lizzo with the recording. It sounds like she didn't maybe have permission to be recording the meetings. Xana said, how does she know someone recorded without knowing who? I don't know. So if it was an accommodation, wouldn't she ask? If it was an accommodation, they would probably know who was recording it, and it would have probably been pre-discussed. So this is feeling like maybe it should have been an accommodation, but wasn't an explicit accommodation. But Lizzo knows. Probably somebody has to know and has told her, unless somebody saw it happening. But if somebody said, I recorded Lizzo talking about this person getting fired, then we're there. Christina said, was it in a one-party consent state? I don't know if we're still in New Orleans or not. I have no idea where in the US we are at this when this happens. I don't know from this lawsuit where we are. Davis admits she was recording the meeting and explained it was because she wanted a copy of the notes about their performances. Davis explained she never intended to harm Lizzo with the recording and had even deleted it the day after the recording. Lizzo responded with, there's nothing you can say to make me believe you. Quigley and Lizzo then took turns berating Davis. After castigating Davis, Lizzo fires Davis on the spot in front of everyone else. So it feels like this was not a discussed accommodation. If you need accommodations at your workplace, you are protected under the ADA. You have to talk to your employers about it, though. And I realize that can be a double-edged sword where you don't necessarily want to talk to your employers about needing accommodations. I understand that. But it sounds like this was not a discussed accommodation. Before Lizzo left, Rodriguez asked if she could have a word with Lizzo. Rodriguez is the hero of this lawsuit for me right now. I'm telling you what. Rodriguez explained that she did not appreciate how Lizzo had handled the situation with Davis and that Rodriguez felt disrespected and therefore would resign. Rodriguez is like, we're doing the thing. Rodriguez is like, enough of this shit. Like, enough of this shit. I'm not taking it anymore. And the group humiliation seems to be a running theme of all of this lawsuit, is the group beratement. The resignation drew both Quigley and Lizzo's ire. Rodriguez is like, I'm out. This is unacceptable. I think the jury, if this goes to jury, Rodriguez is the only one that's not fired. And Rodriguez is like, I cannot take this anymore. That will carry a lot of weight. Quigley screamed at Rodriguez and Davis, calling them disrespectful. Lizzo aggressively approached Rodriguez, cracking her knuckles, balling her fist, and exclaiming, you're lucky, you're so fucking lucky. Rodriguez feared that Lizzo intended to hit her and would have done so if other dancers had not intervened. Neither security nor management did anything to de-escalate the situation. As Lizzo left the room, she raised both her middle fingers and yelled, bye, bitch. This is why there's an assault claim. Remember, assault does not have to have a physical touching. That is why there is an assault claim here. When did this happen? What's our statute of limitations? This is on or about May 3rd, 2023. This just happened. Just happened. So, again, that's why there's an assault claim. Rodriguez stood up for herself and her coworkers. Lizzo was cracking her knuckles and balling her fist, being like, "You're so fucking lucky." I think was she in reasonable apprehension that a touching would occur? I think you could find that. Jessica, it is the threat, the fear that the imminent harm is coming. The battery is the touching. The assault is the perhaps touching. The first part leading up to the touching, which is why assault and battery normally gets lumped together, because normally it is the like apprehension of the touching and then the touching happens, like the moment before you get hit and then when you get hit. So this is the moment before you get hit and then somebody intervened. Rodriguez returned to her hotel room, escorted by 3 other dancers, as they all feared Lizzo may return and try to hurt Rodriguez. And those 3 other dancers will be great witnesses when this goes to trial. We've all learned about assault today. I'm glad we have. Smacking something out of somebody's hand can be assault and battery because it's touching something that they're touching. You don't have to necessarily touch you, but this is the before the touching. Battery's the touching. Assault is the apprehension before. So that is an assault. You can have an assault with a vehicle. I had this case as a DA. We're not going to get to a lot of food court today. We're going to have to do some food court on Tuesday. This took way longer than I anticipated because ADHD. I had an assault with a vehicle case where somebody was trying to take their car out of impound, and the poor person working at impound was just like, "I'm just trying to do my job, and my boss is going to like fire me if you take this car right now. You can't take this car off the impound lot, and my boss will literally fire me, and I really need my job," and was like standing in front of the vehicle. And the person was ramming the end, like revving the engine, and like the car was like jumping towards the employee standing there. And the employee was like, "They're going to run me over. They're going to run me over. They're going to run me over with this car." They never got hit with the car, but that was an assault. They were threatening to hit with the car. Hopefully that makes sense. Same here. The threat. All right. So Rodriguez was escorted by 3 other dancers who were afraid. So that substantiates again the assault. Not only was Rodriguez afraid she was going to be punched, but the other dancers were like, "You were about to get punched." As Davis was forced to stay behind, detained in the room where the meeting had taken place by a member of Lizzo's security detail referred to as Robo, Molly Gordon, the special tours co-manager. Well, at least you've told us who Molly is. We didn't know who Kevin was, but now we know who Molly is. The co-manager demanded Davis let Robo rifle through the files on Davis's phone. No. This is, do you guys remember the episode of The Office where Michael refuses to pay the pizza guy? Who ended up being on Glee years later, same actor. You cannot detain people in a room. This is where the false imprisonment claim comes in. You also can't force your employees to give you their phone to go through. No, none of this. None of this. None of all of this. None of this. Just Hearts, you have the right thought, but not illegal search and seizure because Robo is not a government actor. So, but this is getting into that breach of privacy realm where your employer just can't take your personal phone and start going through it. These claims, again, we've gotten past the claims of like lewd music on the bus to false imprisonment and privacy violations and assault at the very end of the lawsuit. So, Davis was forced to stay behind, detained in a room where the meeting had taken place. This is also going to be fact specific. They demanded that she let them go through the phone while Gordon watched, even though Davis had already explained she deleted it. Davis was told she was not allowed to leave until her phone had been searched. I probably would have said, "Fine. I'm asking to leave. You're not letting me leave, and you're not going through my phone." And at some point, I might have called law enforcement and be like, "My employer's refusing to let me leave this room." I don't think Davis was inclined to do that, but I would be like, "Oh, you want to falsely imprison me? We're going for time. I'm starting the timer on my phone, and I am not giving it to you. But at this point, it seems that Davis is terrified of all of these people, and this is not happening. And she'd been fired. Davis was scared. I don't doubt that Davis was absolutely terrified of everyone. She was like, fuck these people. Davis was scared and wanted nothing more than to leave the area, and therefore assented to her phone being searched. So again, she said her phone could be searched, but was it coercive? We'll have to see if any privacy violations are charged. A thorough search confirmed Ms. Davis's assertion that she had already deleted the recording from her phone. I think the search is kind of the basis for your false imprisonment here. The false imprisonment is a big problem. Absolutely a big problem. And did Lizzo tell Robo, you make sure that that video is off her phone? Also, why are we so stressed about this video? Why are we so stressed about this video? There is a lot of stress over this video that Davis had on the phone. Like a lot. After finally being released from her confinement, Davis hurried to her hotel room, packed her things, met with Miss Rodriguez, left for the airport. Their flights did not leave for another 7 hours, but they were afraid of Lizzo, Quigley, or someone on Lizzo's direction might return with intent to further confront or harm them. Well, I understand that fear. When we got to the end, they buried the lead. The banana stuff is salacious, right? The sexual harassment and the hostile work environment stuff is salacious. But this stuff is a huge problem. The false imprisonment, big problem. The assault is a problem. And again, these are civil cases. Nobody has gone and asked for like a criminal misdemeanor assault on this. These are civil charges. But that false imprisonment is a problem. Absolutely. And these employees do seem terrified of this workplace. But they also seem terrified of leaving their job. And they're going to have to explain this industry and what would happen if you leave this environment to a jury. But if you have all these other employees that are rallying around, which is what we're seeing on social media, if you have other employees rallying around, then you're absolutely going to see a jury be like, oh, it's not just the people suing. And this is not just a hostile work environment and not just, I suspected I might be fired. When push came to shove in this case, they wouldn't let her leave the room till they got what they wanted and searched her phone, which lends credence to the things she believed prior, because a lot of those things are her speculative belief, right? I believe that if I don't go to this, I'll be fired. And they're going to need to bolster that with other employees saying, yes, the employees who became more friendly with Lizzo and didn't say no to these things absolutely got treated better. And it's the employees that were raising some red flags and asking to be paid more. Those are the employees that did not get treated well. But that gets all the way to the end before we get to, and then there's false imprisonment, right? So, all right. What the salacious stuff at the beginning aside, and the woman who's like, you're not a Christian, but I want 10 dicks in my face. That's media fodder, right? That's for the headlines. The rest of this, when we get down to the bottom of it, is we get down to me, what seems like a hostile work environment, false imprisonment, assault, maybe sexual harassment. So that's, when we get to the end of it, that's where the meat of this case is. There's a lot of stuff thrown into this case that paints a picture, but doesn't necessarily go towards some of these things. But they are, again, with hostile work environment, you have to paint the picture of the entirety of the work environment. So we've gotten to hostile work environment, sexual harassment. Here's my big problem, though. Here's my big problem. What if this happened in California? I need to talk to Natalie, lawyer chick. Chat, help me. What locations have we gotten through? Amsterdam, Paris, New Orleans, Europe generally. What did we get to that is California? I still think there's a jurisdiction issue here. And we'll see what happens with that. I still think there's a jurisdiction here. It doesn't mean they can't sue in another jurisdiction, but they don't seem to talk about any of these actions happening in California, but they're suing under California law. So Natalie and I are on the same page with this. And again, these are like the technical parts of a lawsuit that have to be sorted out at the beginning. Taking this lawsuit from the standard of like a motion to dismiss, where you assume everything's here, are there causes of action that are going to survive a motion to dismiss for a 12B6 no failure to state a claim? Yes, there are absolutely things that will survive here. Jurisdictionally, there's some stuff that's an issue. I'm interested to see how they address that. Somebody said, is it because the company's located in Cali? No, the company is in Delaware. There are some issues here. Okay, so there are some jurisdictional issues here. Hostile work environment, sexual harassment. That's alleging all the stuff above, saying that those behaviors created a pervasive, hostile, abusive work environment, making it intolerable. The problem is if they move into a right to work state, some people will be like, okay, it became intolerable and you asked for more money, you didn't quit. And that is what they are going to face if this goes to trial. Amy said maybe the employment contract is out of LA. It might be, but if the action didn't happen in LA, that might not get you to subject matter jurisdiction. So the company's in Delaware. So it depends where the actions happened. Jurisdictionally, this is going to be legally complicated. Factually, we're not as legally complicated. I understand their arguments. When you take everything that the dancers say and go, okay, assuming all of this is absolutely true and 100% the way it went down, is it still a hostile work environment for the overtly sexual atmosphere? And what is Lizzo's music? What was expected when they came on? What do their dance routines look like? Because you could argue if you work at a strip club or work in exotic dancing or a burlesque show that it is an overtly sexual atmosphere. That doesn't mean there can't be a hostile work environment, right? It just gives context to it. Can still happen, but the context is broader. Like in that work environment, what would be acceptable there is different than what would be acceptable at, a traditional office job or somewhere else. So these things the context is going to matter. But even if it is a more sexual atmosphere based on lyrics and dances and costuming, it doesn't mean it can't be a hostile work environment with sexual harassment based on especially some of the seemingly coercive after work activities. Does that make sense? So the overtly sexual atmosphere is explained in great detail above. They were pressured to participate in a nude photo shoot on the show. I would be interested in that content or in that contract. Davis was uncomfortable. It sounds like was accommodated, though, talking about Quigley and Quigley's lurid detailed stories. I don't know how much of that was known by the company, but we'll see. Again, the company is responsible for the behavior of the employees. Lizzo pressured plaintiffs to attend outings where nudity and sexuality were a focal point, disregarded any apprehension, and then they recite those. Second cause of action, failure to prevent or remedy a hostile work environment against all defendants. I don't know if that should be against all defendants or if that should just be against, well, it depends on really the position of Quigley, but this I would see against Lizzo and the company. Like if it was brought to their attention and they didn't remedy it, then that's where that failure to remedy comes in, and then they restate the above. I hate this formatting so much, where the third cause of action is on the bottom line. Religious harassment. I need to go look at FIHA to see where that comes in. I don't know if they were discriminated against based on religion. I have questions about how this isn't some protected by the First Amendment, even though odd. And this is against Quigley and the company. Like the company didn't remedy it. I need to go look at the government code. Not limited to the government code. What else? I need to do some research on that. I've got questions, but the harassment was severe or pervasive. Again, I have questions about that cause of action. Fourth cause of action, failure to prevent or remedy the harassment. That's that should be against the company. and Lizzo. Okay. What else? Racial harassment. Plaintiffs Williams and Davis against defendant company. So this is the company's behavior, not Lizzo, unless you see Lizzo and the company synonymously, but this is against the company. That the conduct of the company created a hostile work environment for plaintiffs, making the conditions of their employment intolerable and in contravention with the state laws. The management derided the two plaintiffs and other Black members of the dance team as lazy, unprofessional, quote unquote, snarky, and generally having bad attitudes. These allegations weren't levied against dancers who were not Black. Williams was fired in the hotel lobby in front of the entire dance cast. Rodriguez confronted, we've heard all this throughout, but they're basing it on that, and that when Rodriguez confronted Gugliotta about how she handled the termination, it was, we've never had any problems with you singling out Rodriguez, seeming to imply that Rodriguez, one of the few members of the dance cast who is not Black, was not painted with the same generalization and unfounded criticisms as the Black members of the cast. That, again, is going to be real factually specific. They allege it's severe and pervasive, as you have to. So these are the underlying allegations. FEHA disability discrimination by Davis against company and Lizzo. This is regarding the recording incident above and not being able to not accommodating. I think, let's see what they're pinning it to. The company knew of Miss Davis's struggles with anxiety, depression, binge eating disorder, and from the psychological examination which she submitted before filming the show. Further, she was made so anxious during her re-audition that she believed she was not allowed to leave the stage, leading to her losing control of her bladder. It should have been widely apparent that Davis was grappling with some stressor in her life. They did approach her about that. Despite being on notice of this, Lizzo and Scott held a meeting in which they interrogated her about her health until she felt compelled to disclose further details. While interrogating Davis, they only seemed interested in finding an explanation as to why Davis had gained weight and made Miss Davis believe that if she were to take time away from rehearsals to treat her binge eating disorder, she would lose her spot on the dance cast. Defendants' adverse actions, including but not limited to the interrogation. This doesn't bring up the eye and the recording stuff at all. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Intentional interference of prospective economic advantage, 7th cause of action. This is the soft holds. I would need to know more about industry standards on this and how they deal with it. And how long there was an issue with the soft hold before they were paid for a hold time. Some of this is going to be industry standard that I would be very interested in that I have not looked at. 8 cause of action assault between Rodriguez and Lizzo. This is civil assault. This is not a criminal case. If this was a criminal case, it would be a misdemeanor criminal case in Los Angeles at best. If this happened in Los Angeles, we don't know because it's not really clear where this happened. I don't know if this was still in New Orleans or wherever, but this is a civil cause of action. And yes, you can be recompensed civilly for assault. We went through the facts of that. False imprisonment, Davis against the company. The company hired security. There we go. I think the false imprisonment is a strong cause of action. I have questions about why anyone thought this was a good idea. Not allowed to leave until you submit a search of your phone. That seems pretty clear to me. I have questions about that, but yes, you can be civilly recompensed for false imprisonment. Yes, it's also a criminal cause of action. Again, I don't know what state that took place in because it's not clear. Prayer for relief. We're almost done. Unpaid wages, loss of earnings, deferred comp, other employment benefits, general damages, including emotional distress. This is spaced odd. Special damages, punitive damages, interest, costs, other relief. I think there was a jury demand in this. Of course there is. That is it. Does this work environment seem wild? Yes. Are the things that are grabbing the headlines the biggest problem here? I think the assault and the false imprisonment are some of the biggest problems here. But is this a work environment that lacks boundaries and has behavior that is abhorrent? Yes. Will the hostile work environment fly? I think so. The sexual harassment, I think is absolutely going to get past your initial stages. The fact that we have a lot of dancers that have come forward and said that this was also their experience is going to play into how this moves forward. Because if you have a bunch of other witnesses that aren't suing that come in, it's very, very persuasive to a dancer. And we've seen other dancers say that they're supporting these dancers coming forward because especially this happens across industries, but in an industry as small as dance and backup dance in Hollywood, the very real consideration for these plaintiffs is if my name is on this, I will never be able to work in this field again. And that is a choice plaintiffs have to make to bring a case like this, saying, this is going to have to be worth it enough that I am willing to walk from my career. Because the very real side of this is you might get completely blacklisted from your industry. That's not unique to Hollywood. This happens in other industries. But this is an industry that is so small, it is more rife for that, which is why people stay silent, which is a huge problem. But some people will quit and move on and work for somebody else and never say anything. These three plaintiffs were like, we're done. We're done. And we've seen others come forward to talk about it. So this is wild. We will see what moves forward. This is going to have to move forward through the court process. I'm interested in what happened on the reality show. We're going to look at Lizzo's statement real quick. And we are over 2 hours. We are going to have to do a real quick, oh, my kid is texting me. Okay. Oh gosh. That might be an issue. Okay. We have, my life is complicated. Storms are changing band practice. All right. So I lost my train of thought. We went way longer on this than I thought we should have, or that I thought we were going to. And it will be interesting to see where this goes from here in court. Again, keep in mind, this will have to play out in court. We have changed our minds together as a channel, watching cases play out in court. There are two sides to every story. I'm really the two sides on things like you can't leave this room until your phone gets searched are a little more black and white to me than the two sides of, you can come out, but you don't have to come out, but you do have to come out, or to, hey, we're concerned about you and you can take time off for therapy. Is that a genuine offer, or is that a veiled and if you take time off for therapy, you're not going to be welcome back? Those things are going to be a little harder to distill. Some of these things are pretty clear to distill. So we just need to watch it play out. So I don't know if it will change your opinion of Lizzo, change your opinion of, the protection that dancers need. I don't know how dancers are protected in the industry. But it seems that there is a lot of, if you don't toe the line, you're not going to work anymore. And that is a huge problem. Also, boundaries are important. And I understand on tour, you want to be friends. Look, I don't know. I follow the Dave Matthews Band. There aren't backup dancers. And it seems that most of the tour crew has worked together for decades. It seems like a different environment, but I can see how these environments can get really out of hand. And just because you're in entertainment doesn't mean the environments can get out of hand. They are still workplaces, and that's hard. So we will see what happens. Here is Lizzo's statement. All right. We're going to do a quick overview of Mr. Beast, and we're going to have to get to more of it on Tuesday because I suck at time management. Badly. All right. The last few days, that was more than I thought. I thought I could zoom. I couldn't zoom. The last few days have been gut-wrenchingly difficult and overwhelmingly disappointing. Linda making the comment that's been going through my head this entire time. Slushy said, what would DMB backup dancers look like? It would look like a bunch of people going like this with drinks in their hand. That's what it would look like. A bunch of people with their hands up with a drink in their hand. The last few days have been gut-wrenchingly difficult and overwhelmingly disappointing. My work ethic, morals, and respectfulness have been questioned. Accurate. My character has been criticized. Usually I choose not to respond to false allegations, so she's calling these allegations false. But these are as unbelievable as they sound and too outrageous to not be addressed. These sensationalized stories are coming from former employees who have already publicly admitted that they were told their behavior on tour was inappropriate and unprofessional. They said that that's what the company said, but they also said they weren't told what was unprofessional and inappropriate. Okay. Hold on. I am trying to. Let's see. I don't want to get into the comment section because I'll get distracted. So I'm trying to zoom it so I don't. As an artist, I have always been very passionate about what I do. I take my music and my performances seriously because at the end of the day, I only want to put out the best art that represents me and my fans. With passion comes hard work and high standards. Hard work and high standards are okay. People have issue with the after work forced fun, as they are calling it. Well, as they are implying that it is, and the overall work environment. I think you can have a high quality, hard work, high standards work environment, professional sports team, without having a hostile work environment. Sometimes I have to make hard decisions, but it's never my intention to make anyone feel uncomfortable or like they aren't valued as an important part of the team. I'm not here to be looked at as a victim, but I also know that I am not the villain that people and the media have portrayed me to be these last few days. I am very open with my sexuality and expressing myself, but I cannot accept or allow people to use that openness to make me out to be something I am not. There is nothing I take more seriously than the respect we deserve as women in the world. I know what it feels like to be body shamed on a daily basis and would absolutely never criticize or terminate an employee because of their weight. That is very carefully crafted. I would never criticize or terminate an employee because of their weight. I need to know what was said at the festival. The employee in the lawsuit said, as made clear at South by Southwest. I need to know what happened at South by Southwest. I need more context now. I have questions. I need to know what was said there that gave that context. But she's very carefully parsing, and this, again, this is not, Judy M says this is not a good apology. This is not an apology. This is a response. This is a response. But would never criticize or terminate an employee because of their weight, but this employee was terminated. This is we're parsing. I am hurt, but I will not let the good work I've done in the world be overshadowed by this. I want to thank everyone who has reached out in support to lift me up during this difficult time. I am going to be talking with Molly McPherson about PR for her podcast, and I will absolutely share that with you when it is out. She is a PR professional who does what I do. She breaks down the PR side of things as I break down the legal side of things. And we will be talking about this more, the PR, the lawsuit, the things in the lawsuit that are the true crux of this lawsuit to me seems to be the hostile work environment through the sexual harassment, the assault, the false imprisonment. That, to me, that seems like the biggest part of it. But also, workplaces are workplaces. And you have to manage the boundaries there, even in a workplace that is a fun workplace, that is a non-traditional environment. But look, employment lawsuits get messy. This is going to get messy, and it's not done at all. And I think saying that these are disgruntled employees is maybe not going to play the way she wants it to play. The employees are very upfront with, we asked for a raise, and that's when it got tense, right? What time is it? Oh gosh, I have got to go soon. Y'all, we are not going to have time to get into all of the food courting. I was not going to stream on Tuesday, but I am going to have to stream food court on Tuesday. Because I want to get to your questions. So I'm going to have to redo my thumbnail. To everyone who was waiting for Mr. Beast, I'm sorry. We're going to have to get to the Beast Burgers not adhering to their standards on Tuesday. I wasn't going to stream Tuesday because we're streaming all of the Rust stuff the rest of the week. But I will stream and just do Mr. Beast. I'm sorry, you guys. I know I was looking forward to it too. This took way longer than I thought. So where is HR? I don't know. The production company should have HR. Friday whiskey stream. Oh, that might work. I can look at tomorrow's schedule and see if I could do it tomorrow and not do it Tuesday. I know all I wanted was food court. All I wanted was food court too. Did she determine what sort of launcher was used? No, we don't know what sort of launcher was used for the flying dildos. I don't know. So you guys, I'm sorry. I thought I could get to more. I actually can't today because I have some hard stops. Otherwise, I would just stream for another hour, but I can't. So maybe Food Court Friday will have to be back on the menu. Let me take a look at tomorrow's day and talk to my moderators and see what I can do. I might be able to make that work. So I'm going to get to a few questions before I have to stop. I'm sorry to bring so many topics on a hard stop day, and I didn't realize how much. I was going to try to quick bit this and then do food court, and ADHD failed. So I'm sorry that I failed you. Ippy Fluffy said, I work 10 hours and all I want is food court. I vote for Friday too. I'll take a look with the mods and see what I can do. I vote for Friday too. I need food court. I'm ready to do something that is that is wild in a different way. I've got questions. You've got questions. We've got questions. All right. Today got messy, especially with my kid needing to be picked up at a completely different time than he was supposed to be picked up today. So I apologize that I cannot stream longer. We will have to food court. Could I food court tonight? I can't food court tonight. I could food court tomorrow. Mods, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about Food Court Friday. I really want to talk about Mr. Beast and Taco Bell. So here's what I'm going to tell you. If you are not already signed up to Law Nerd Alert, sign up to Law Nerd Alert. When I decide on a time to stream tomorrow, I will let you guys know through Law Nerd Alert. I will ping you and I will let you know, and we will do Food Court Friday. I just have to find a time that I can do it, and we will make it work. All right? Knights who say nee. Just had the newest Law Nerd at 4:43 this morning, so I'm going to be vibing along with the lives instead of being as active. Glad you're vibing along. Congratulations. Happy to see the cross between Food Court and YouTuber lawsuits today. I know. The level of my epic disappointment. Lizzo took up way too much time. I worked 10 hours. All I want is Wingstop. I know. That's how I feel at the end of this lawsuit. Elizabeth said, my 45th birthday is tomorrow. Catching up with the lives is the best. Happy birthday, Elizabeth. I love that we've got our members chats pulled out. I've never been a part of Food Court. I'm so excited. Denise, I'm so sorry that I have failed you. Tomorrow, I promise. I needed this live stream so much. I'm investigating a financial issue at work, and some of the expenses have me seeing red. There's nothing like the Law Nerds to lower my blood pressure. I don't know if today would do that. This whole Food Court is out of order. This was a crossover Food Court. It was a crossover Food Court. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to put a note that we did not get to all the food stuff in our title. Great way to pass the time during this 4.5 hour infusion. Good luck, Debbie, with your infusion. Berea Pasta Box no longer talks about Italy. I have to go look at that because that is on the list for Food Court. I need to go see what happened with that one too. We're going to do it tomorrow. Miguelina, can we do it tomorrow? Can we make it work tomorrow? Mods, are we good? Can we just make Food Court work tomorrow? Can we just make Food Court Friday? I thought we weren't going to do Food Court Friday, but maybe we can just make it work. We'll find a time. Miguelina is like, yes, for me, we'll make it work. The Law Nerds will be behaved, even if we only have a few mods. We'll make it work. When will you next guest star on Friday Night Frenzy? I have no idea. Our Friday nights get very busy here with school stuff. Sometimes from a PR view, you have to cut losses. The sky has thoughts. Will she blame it on the juice? I have no idea what that means. After being on Natalie the Lawyer Chick's live last night and learning it hasn't been filed yet, it's definitely giving it was written for the media. There's a lot of things in this lawsuit that were written for the media, for sure. And that's, you guys can decide if you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's for you to decide. That's kind of a judgment. We're in this space between morality and legality, right? Assuming everything in this lawsuit is true, where is the legality of it? And that's what I was trying to parse today. Oh, it's a Lizzo song reference. I'm sorry. I didn't get the reference. My brain is like, Emily, you got to wrap it up or you're going to be late. That is where I'm at. Sorry, y'all. Apologies for trying to do too much. My brain is already in like, wait, did you know there's a 20-minute heavy metal Wingstop video? I can't today. Can you please cover the Kylie Rodney family lawsuit against Ryan Upchurch? I have been sent it a lot. So I have not read the lawsuit yet, but I've been sent it a lot. I know the law nerds are interested on the docket. Our docket has gotten very heavy lately. It's very full of serious cases. So we will see. If the allegations took place during tour, does it matter where they took place since the tour would be moving different states frequently? It can if LA has no subject matter jurisdiction. Blanca, this is a longer answer for another time. I can give you the quick summary. The quick summary is now in Bravo, if you create a product, Bravo is entitled to some of the intellectual property. With Bethany, she created like the whole Skinny Girl brand and all of it while she was on Bravo, but Bravo was not entitled to any of it. So now this happens on most shows. If you create something or a brand, the show gets a part of it. So if you are on Drag Race and you create a brand and then it becomes merch and then you do this and that down the road, the network and the show will always get a part of it. This is exactly why I never worked for her again. Her NDA was tight for a reason. Zoe, that says a lot without saying a lot, doesn't it? And we've seen a lot of the team come forward and say very similar things. Her team made destroyed my self-confidence and made it clear I was replaceable, which is heartbreaking to hear, right? Because that's not what we expect in a Lizzo workplace, right? That's not what her brand is. So Zoe, thank you for sharing your thoughts in the way that you can. We're seeing a lot of people come forward and say similar things, which is why I think this could settle. Can you tell me where the last 14 months have gone? Murdaugh. And Zoe, you are not alone. I think there is room for the dancers who have been through stuff to connect over this, hopefully. So, I'm going to have to zoom. Isn't it up to the employer to find who fits the job, not necessarily the best dancer? They have requirements for a job and should be able to hire who fits. They should be able to hire who fits, but once they hire people, they have to adhere to the laws and how they treat them. Could you possibly look into the latest of Marvin Gaye for TV and threatening his wife? I can't access anything from the UK. Sleepy T, or Sleepy Tigress, sorry, my brain spaced those words weird. Could you just shoot me an email with the case specifically and I can see what I can send you? Even if I don't cover it, I can look at, see what I can grab and can send it. Dying, faux fellatio blowies, and 1 tequila. I mean, I've got beef with vegans for sure. See, we got into a little bit of food court. As a chaplain in an incarceration setting, we have a positive, constant model for proselytizing. And again, I'm sure people who are like, I don't want to hear it, don't. Whose requirement was it? Lizzo's or Quigley's? Quigley works for Lizzo. We're going to get into some agency there because it's like you can sue your company for what a manager does. So we'll see. I'm hoping this trial is streamed. It's LA, probably not. I'm a Christian and getting madder by the minute. I think a lot probably are. My coworker's son is a rigger for the Eagles and he's not allowed to work between gigs. They don't want him to get hurt and then can't be part of the team. And I'm sure that that is accommodated for in their contracts, right? It's like teachers don't work in the summer, but most contracts accommodate for that time off. I'm late joining. I'm late streaming, setting up pre-op, waiting for surgery. Good luck. And I hope today was illuminating, and good luck in your surgery. Recover swiftly. A lot of you guys recovering from surgery. NSFW chat reminds me of Colleen. Except there's no minors involved in this one. So for what it's worth, these are all adults. So there's that. The episode of Friends with Rachel smoking. I forgot about that. My nephew refused to go to a strip club with an employer. He was fired the next day. And this is the fear, right? Because it happens. This is the fear. And I understand the fear. A lot of time, they're not wrong. It's like, well, if you don't want to be a team player, you're out. But be a team player can involve shit that is completely unokay. And that's why they are bringing this lawsuit. They're like, that's not okay. I shouldn't lose my job over not wanting to touch someone's breast or not wanting to go to see a nude burlesque dance. Not everyone's cool with it. And their boundaries shouldn't be pushed in that way. Ever. So, and in a workplace, the coercion is on a whole different level because you're like, if I don't do this thing I'm uncomfortable with, I'll lose my job. No. But again, a jury's going to have to decide if they were they coerced through the hostile environment? Were they specifically told? Was it we're not told, but we're this? That's for a jury. So this is giving Julia Jennifer Aniston vibes from Horrible Bosses. It's a good movie. Things that are not okay in the workplace. I had to make a chart for War and Peace. Sounds like we'll need one here. There's a lot of names just dropped in the middle of this lawsuit. Matt Bond said, sadly, it's common if you get fired by one artist, word spreads fast and your career is as good as dead. Should have got a break before auditioning, but not during. Thank you, Matt Bond. I know you work in the industry and I always appreciate your insight. And yes, and I understand that especially in smaller insular industries, if you become like, a difficult person or that person who can't be worked with, you're just done. And I don't think you're a difficult person for having boundaries about, this work environment. I don't think that's being difficult at all. That's having boundaries, acceptable boundaries, normal boundaries. It's not like on tour, I need you to do this and this and that. It's hey, I'm not comfortable going to this thing. Please don't make me do that. So I can see why it took getting to a lawsuit here. Please look at the Leah Remini lawsuit. I have gotten a lot of requests for it. The Scientology lawsuit. Could successful civil support criminal charges? They're going to be separate, and I can't tell what jurisdiction half these things happened in. So you would generally, some of the criminal statutes of limitations, especially for the assault, can be short. Which state where it gets sued in? I need more information, Victoria, because it happened on tour. It might be where the company is in Delaware. It might not be. I need a lot more information. Miss Emily, do you think these ladies were more concerned about losing their job because they are less jobs for full-figured women? That's a really good point. In the world of backup dancers, a full-figured backup dancer might have a lot less, like that world might be even smaller for touring. So yes, absolutely something that the plaintiff's attorney should argue is that the fear, it's not just a fear of losing a job, it's a fear of losing one of very, very few jobs that there are. That's a very good point. Jace Cat Dad, I was a band kid. Our director just waited till the thunder while we finish our practices inside. I don't know what they're doing, but they're ending a little early. So I live in a right to work state and you're always scared to bring up dyslexia and fear of being fired. And that's so frustrating because the laws are there to protect you, but it is so hard to fight against it when they're like, well, you were fired because you sneezed this one time or whatever it is. That's a dumb example for me, but it's hard to bring up accommodations that you need depending on the work environment. So I completely get it. And it's really frustrating. And I don't know the good answer. Could be going for where the tour promoter is based. Could be. I'm interested about I'm really interested about some of where these actions happened. Have you checked out the YouTube channel for plaintiffs' lawyers? No. As soon as I heard about Lizzo, Mr. P, Taco Bell, hoping you would cover them. Yes, and I will be. And no, I have not checked out plaintiffs' lawyers' YouTube channel. Just had a mole removed for testing. Good luck. All right. At least we got some food. We did. Is Lizzo assuming that her employees are as comfortable with their sexuality as she is? Perhaps. And that is what they're going to argue, right? She's going to argue that this is not a hostile work environment. This is an open work environment, and this is how the work environment is. I don't think that's going to extend to like the assaults and the false imprisonment and the photo shoot. Aside from the stuff in Amsterdam, I think there's layers of this that are going to need more detail and more parsing. I think the lawsuit gets past a motion to dismiss. Absolutely. I think we have jurisdiction on failure to state a claim. I think we have jurisdictional issues, and I'm interested to see what happens. Can I get a birthday shout out for Draco, Amy, and I? Julia and Draco, Amy, happy birthday. Yes, you can. Thank you for the compliments. I need them. At least there were no ukuleles. There might be a flute. They might be a flute. I want to know who paid for all these outings. I'm sure the company did. Yeah, I'm sure they were company outings. I'm sure. Would there be a difference for an exotic dancer saying no? I think, Lauren, that we covered this a little bit earlier. Just because you work in a sexualized work environment or work in a exotic dancing or what have you, there are still workplace boundaries, and you can still be sexually harassed in that work environment. But the sexual harassment can't be my supervisor dancer had her boobs out if you work at a topless club. That's not going to be it. That's part of the work environment. If you're a lifeguard and you're like, I'm being sexually harassed because my coworker is in a bikini and I can see their body, that's not going to work. The bikini is the work uniform, but it doesn't mean there can't be sexual harassment in other ways. And that's where the work environment and the requirements of the work environment get very, very fact and context specific. So just because you are in an exotic dancing work environment doesn't mean boundaries can't be crossed. It just means that what those boundaries are is different. If you're working in an office job and your boss comes in with their boobs out, it's going to be a much different situation than if you are in a topless club and your boss comes in with your boobs out. Does that make sense? I saw, wait, doesn't Emily have to go like now? 5 minutes ago. I needed to go 5 minutes ago. And with that, I have to say goodbye. So Law Nerds, I appreciate you. Thank you. I will figure out a time for stream. Sign up for the Law Nerd Alert and we will get it handled and we will do another stream. I will fix the thumbnail. I apologize for those of you that waited forever for Mr. Beast content. We're going to have to just do it tomorrow. I never thought in my life I would have Mr. Beast on a thumbnail twice, but there we are. I'll see you tomorrow.
You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at The Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.